Hello, and welcome back to Blumira Briefings, your weekly download of the top headlines and trends for your security practice. I'm your host, Zoe Lindsay, and today we're covering a lot of ground with stories from new evolutions of familiar threats to new risks in emerging tech. First up, Microsoft Defender researchers have flagged a sophisticated multi-stage phishing campaign leveraging adversary-in-the-middle attacks and resulting in business email compromise. These threat actors are cleverly stealing credentials and session tokens, then using legitimate SharePoint features to host phishing content or to exfiltrate data. This research is based on real data from organizations in the energy sector, which has been a particular focus in these campaigns. And it's a good reminder that even trusted platforms can become tools for adversaries. Justin from our detection engineering team dives deeper into these tactics and what to watch out for. Justin?
So I think one of the bigger takeaways that I saw when I was looking at this is that while the trend is definitely growing, it's something that we've seen already for a while now, where attackers are trying to hide as much as possible in plain sight using either legitimate services or applications to obfuscate their activity, or at least bypass traditional controls and detection methods. I think that the playbook, though, is still pretty much the same. User training, visibility and monitoring using a SIM if possible or other tooling, and really leveraging all the features that come with your Microsoft licensing, such as conditional access policies, continuous access evaluation, trusted locations, and all the other things that Microsoft really gives you tools to take action on. Additionally, if something like this does happen, I would definitely recommend the usual methods to remediate, like disabling and revoking user sessions, going through and deleting the inbox rules that were created during the time of the suspected incident, making sure that any MFA methods that were added during an incident timeframe are removed, and digging into subsequent user behavior, seeing who they might have potentially impacted down the line as well.
Thanks, Justin. Next up, we're shining a light on Active Directory, and more specifically, spotlighting the primaryGroupID attribute. Now, while this was designed for portable operating system interface, or POSIX, compatibility, new research is showing how its behavior can be abused. This could allow manipulation of user and group memberships, potentially leading to unauthorized access or privilege escalation within your AD environment. And I think it's a good example of how deeply technical insights in fresh research can uncover some hidden risks in your foundational systems. Let's send it over to our lead detection engineer, Jake, for a breakdown of the specifics and some mitigation measures you can take.
So the thing that makes this whole exploit work is the user attribute in Active Directory known as the primaryGroupID. There's two ways that you can be added to a group in Active Directory. The main way is the one that I'm sure we're all aware of and familiar with, is just adding them as a member. The other thing you can do is setting the primary group for a user account, and that also adds them to the group. So the thing we're focusing on here is that primary group ID attribute itself. And the way that attackers are exploiting this is they are modifying that attribute to whatever, like a particular elevated group. So say something like domain admins, enterprise admins. And then the next step that they do is they make that attribute basically all locked down. They restrict access to that attribute. So basically no one, not even administrators, can read that attribute. And the way that that manifests itself in the system is it makes it so that anybody reviewing that account, that primary group membership is going to show as none, which is difficult when you're trying to investigate things. And even if you go to the group itself, the domain admins, enterprise admins, whatever group was targeted, if you go to that and investigate, that user's not going to show up. They don't show up in that group in any way. That's what makes this particular exploit scary, is they get those permissions, but there's no way to really audit it or see through the UI to investigate. Thankfully, there is one way that we can monitor for this, and the net group command happens to work. And if you do net command or net group command on a user or the group, it will show all the group membership, and you'll be able to audit things that way. So the things to watch out for and things to monitor for are users without a primary group ID attribute. And that is definitely suspicious. You could also take it a step down and open up, make your search a little bit more broad, and just search for users with non-standard primary group ID. The standard primary group ID for Active Directory is just domain users, and for 99% of environments, that's probably going to be standard and normal and not changed for any reason. So it might be a good idea to audit that attribute itself and just kind of keep an eye out for any things that differ from the norm.
Thank you, Jake. Finally, let's talk about everybody's favorite topic right now in security, AI. With more organizations deploying AI agents faster than making plans to govern its use, new security challenges continue to emerge. Now, attackers are actively exploring ways to exploit vulnerabilities within the orchestration processes of Gen AI while they're operating. It's a sobering reminder that in addition to preventing more common prompt injection attacks, we need dedicated security measures and real-time defenses to protect AI agents as they run. Mike Tools here with more info on this runtime risk research and what you can do.
AI agents and runtime security this is all very new. People are rolling it out very quickly, as Microsoft has denoted. They're also finding out that the agent runtime can have user input. People are building these things in ways that anyone can interact with them, and that just adds risks. So a lot of what's happening now is we're figuring out, hey, these agents have broad access, they have pretty siloed monitoring, and they just go off and do their own things and are tasked with all sorts of very different tasks. And turns out no one's looking, right? So if you can inject into the prompts, you can get these agents to do all sorts of stuff. And now it's turned into, much like the early 2000s, hey, we need to sanitize user input. Probably should have been doing that from the beginning. I like to think of it from a different perspective. And, building agents is more about the architecture, and you really need to understand what you're building, why you're building it, and what the agent theoretically has the access to do, right? And who can interact with it. It's a way better place to start from. And then you are essentially not deploying magic agents that a lot of people don't understand. Yeah, always come at it from the perspective of least privilege, right? These agents have tokens that basically give the one agent or multiple agents the same token, usually the same user context, but with a very broad scope of access to do all sorts of different tasks, right? Most of these are not built in the way that, a task has specific permissions. So, if you can jailbreak out of a task, that also has implications, right? Like you can abuse the credentials that can do all sorts of other different things that agent was specifically trained on, or even like theoretically has the ability to do. Everyone's gonna have to start monitoring these agents just like you monitor employees, right? What access logs look like? Are they doing things that are a bit out of character? Do the prompts look weird? Are people trying to inject? We're at a place now where we're doing a lot of stuff in the browser again, on the user side, and that's just a very different security model than we've been running for the last 10, 15 years. So we have to add new controls and think about things in different ways.
Thanks, Mike. It's a good reminder to not put the cart before the horse when it comes to integrating AI tools. So, to recap, this week we've covered advanced phishing leveraging trusted tools, a deep dive into Active Directory's more subtle risks, and the increasingly critical need to secure our AI agents, both at the time of prompt and during runtime. As always, security is a broad landscape, and staying ahead means keeping a finger on the pulse of these many threats. But don't worry, we're here to make sure you never go it alone. That's it for Blumira Briefings this week. What are your biggest takeaways, and how are you dealing with securing AI tools in your environment? Share your tips, thoughts, and questions in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. See you next Friday when we'll be back with more updates. And until next time, stay safe out there.